and welcome everybody, it's Karen. I have got a double tentfold card to share with you today. So here in my mock-up you can see I've just put a piece of acetate in the middle, but that could just as easily be a really pretty die cut, with a center opening. There's room to write a message on the back, and this particular card measures 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So I've started with an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of cardstock, and I have cut it at 5.5 inches and 7.5 inches. Now I've used 110-pound cardstock, I believe, but I think you could use 100-pound. Here I am scoring right down the middle at 5.5 inches, and then I will fold this in half, and that gives me my 5.5 inch card base. That's the front and the back of the card. Now this is the 2-inch wide section, and I'm going to score this every 1/2 inch. So at 1 inch, and then I score at 1.5, and just because it's awkward on my scoreboard to do that first 1/2 inch, I rotate it and I score again. Now this piece is going to be the tabs that go at the bottom of the card, and it's going to fold into mountain folds and valley folds. So I find if I turn it over and I score again on the back side, I have less cracking and splitting at the fold lines, so you may want to try that. But you're going to fold this down right in the middle into a mountain fold, and then the two outer score lines will fold back into valley folds. And I'm just pressing that down with my fingers for now. I did burnish it with the bone folder. I don't think I show you that though. Oh, yes I did. So there you go, that's what the tab mechanism will look like. Now this little piece I am scoring right down the middle at 1/2 inch as well, and this is just going to be the tab that holds the middle layer in place. So I'm folding that into a mountain fold, and both of these I am cutting down to be 5.5 inches wide. Now you could make your card any size you want, and you would just adjust that width to be whatever the width of your card is. Here I lost a bit of footage, but all I did is I die cut a circle opening on the front of my card, and I've attached a piece of acetate to the back. And now this little landscape piece is from the Snome Time 2 12 by 12 inch paper pack from Consortium. And just to cover the bottom, I've attached a little snowy border down, a die cut border. Now here is this little tab, the 1-inch tab, and you can see I should have marked this before I put the acetate on. I could have just penciled that so I knew where to cut, but I've just trimmed out a section there. Nobody is going to see this. So it doesn't matter if it's not super neat and tidy, but it shouldn't show through on the front. So I'm gluing that down in place now. And you just want to be careful that you can still fold this card over. So don't really press it down until you know for sure you can fold and that it's not impeding the closing of the card. And it should look like that. Now for my middle layer, I have this memory box die. It's the Lamplight tree collage, but it's a bit too narrow for my opening. So I just did some partial die cutting and extended it out a bit more to the sides. So it will look like that. I just wanted a few trees on either side of that. Now when it's pushed right up, for some reason this middle layer always seems to be a tiny bit too long. So I just trim that off, and I think it's 1/8 inch. And that makes it so that it fits flush inside, right up at the top, and it doesn't extend past the bottom. Now to get a bit of snow on my acetate, I've just mixed a little tiny bit of water with some white acrylic paint, and I'm just gently spattering on some of that paint. I didn't want a whole lot because I found it was tough to see through if I had really thick spatter, so I just went fairly lightly, and then I set that aside to dry. Now I've added a snowy bank to the bottom. It made it look a bit better with that background, I thought. And I've put some double-sided adhesive all around, and now I've taken the release paper off the top layer of double-sided tape, and I'm just centering this piece of acetate down over that, and then I can remove the release paper from the sides and the bottom. And then I just like to burnish that to make sure it sticks really well. So now I'm putting a little bit of glue on that tab that we've put in at the top, and I'm going to just place this middle layer over top of that. And you want to be sure that you are lining up the sides. Well, the bottom, I don't worry about as much. It's more the sides to make sure they're straight and that I can fold the top over and down. And so long as you can do that, it should be okay. If it's a little bit shorter or at the bottom, those little W tabs will help with that. So before I close it up, I like to just add my decorations. I find that easier. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm using the chipboard elements from Craft Consortium from the Snome Time 2 set. And because they have that adhesive on the back, I can just easily stick them down. So this little guy is going on that middle layer, the acetate layer. And I'm just making sure he's in the right spot. Now, when you go to put these tabs in, think W for winner and not M for mistake. That's how I remember it. So you always want to make sure it's a W facing up. So I'm putting a little bit of glue on this first side, making sure it's a W, and then you're going to stick that right onto the bottom of the card back. And you're just trying to line up those bottom edges there. So because it's glue, you've got a little bit of wiggle room. And I'm just really making sure the edges are, the sides are even and the bottom is. And then I'm putting some glue down on this other tab. And then with this middle layer, I just pull it down onto that tab. And I'm sort of trying to pull it fairly tightly so that it's taut. Because I trimmed that little bit off, it doesn't necessarily line up at the bottom, but you do want it to be tight and straight. So it should look like that when you've got it done. And again, W for winner on this one. I'm gluing that down to the middle layer there and just making sure the edges are lined up. And then glue on the top. And now this top one, when you pull it down, it should definitely line up with the bottom because you're going to notice this from the front. So I'm pulling this quite tightly down. And it is a bit of there is tension on it for sure. I think because there's a bit of bulk up at the top, it is a little bit tight. And I'm just making sure that it's all lined up. And then I realized I'd forgotten to trim that tab down too. So I've just taken a little snowy border die and cut a little piece out, and I'm gluing that on. And then I just trimmed off the sides of that. And in the end, I like this better, having that little snowy border on the outside. It's sort of like it brought the snow all the way through all the layers. And because I was adding this little piece on to the side, it just seemed to work really well. Now I'd had this Frosty Winter Wishes greeting I thought I was going to put on, but it just was too big. And so in the end, I've just put this extra little sentiment on, and that is the card. So it's quite a fun little card. I've put a panel on the back and a white piece of cardstock so you can easily write a message. It's a fun look from the side. It folds down flat and it does stand up. So thanks for joining me, everybody. I hope that's given you a little inspiration, and I hope you'll come back tomorrow for the next card in this series. Thanks and have a great day.